Traumatic stress. Often, when I introduce the concept of traumatic stress, clinicians want to better understand how this differs from conventional concepts that we typically use when we're working with our clients. And I often say to them that traumatic stress is persistent, it's chronic, uh, but it's like the slow drip of oppression. So think about it. For lots of culturally and socially marginalized clients, the issues that they deal with are on a daily basis. They experience microaggressions at school, at work, on their way to work, shopping, in their human interactions. So this issue of being socially positioned on the outside is something that's always there. It's something that is below your conscious thoughts. So a lot of times the sound of that drip is just in the background. And after a while, people don't often think about it. So if you were to ask a client about traumatic stress, they might not really have it in their conscious mind to talk about. It just might be something that's in the back of their mind. This constant drip of oppression causes irritability and cognitive distraction. So it becomes very difficult to focus on one's tasks when there are these other things that are going on that impact us and our clients. So we know that it has both cognitive and affective outcomes. It's also a pre-existing condition to clients presenting problems, and it creates this additive effect. So when we think about here in the US, for example, many people of color, whether they are indigenous people from Native American nations or Asian Americans who've been experiencing astronomical rates of racism and racist attacks, physical attacks in the public, or we're talking about people of African descent in the US, or we're talking about people with Latino background, heritage. We know that they experienced a lot of reactions to the police brutality that was very evident and noticeable in the US in the summer of 2020. It's the demarcation of the assassination of George Floyd is something that people have a hard time forgetting. And of course, people from all over the world who have similar kinds of issues of oppression and allies were greatly impacted by that very momentous summer. But those events were on top of the everyday microaggressions of systemic oppression for many people. And then, of course, there's a pandemic. Also, people are dealing with issues related to climate change, and that's happening all over globally. And people are also experiencing everyday issues like problems in their families and their relationships and the loss of family members and friends and so on. People are struggling with developmental issues as they transition um, into adolescence, out of adolescence, into adulthood, into middle age, preparing for retirement. There's just so many things that just human beings face. But this additive effect is something that we need to acquire confidence in. And that is understanding that for many people who belong to culturally marginalized groups, that this slow drip is something that is in the background, and we need to help them to deal with that and to think about ways in which uh, we can alter that reality to facilitate some form of change for them that's systemic, to facilitate empowerment, to be able to address social ills and so on. But the biggest thing about a slow drip is that we often don't notice it until it stops. And then there's this sigh of relief, and we realize how stressed out we really were.